Hi, my name is Sandy Lueth, and today I'm representing Timeless Treasures Fabrics. I'm so excited that they asked me to tell you about their new fabric lines because they're really special and really wonderful. Now, when most people look at fabric, they think about quilts. I'm a purse pattern designer and I see purses. So I have lots of fun with their fun new fabrics, just making purses. I'm going to show you their lines by making one of my purse patterns called the Janet Tote, and we're going to do it in stages with 4 of their new lines. So let's get started. First of all, when I make a purse, I kind of lay the whole thing out just like it's a regular, like you would on your design wall with a quilt. So this is the front of the purse. This is their fabric line called Doodles. And what a fun fabric it is. This lime green is just in and modern. The great big fun daisies are just great. So this is the front of my bag. This is the back, and it's identical. This bag has a gusset, which is this great lime green that matches the flowers. And I don't know if you can see, but it's got the little daisies in it as well. And on the side, on the bottom of the gusset is a pocket. And this is this great bias scribbly doodle that just looks really wonderful on there. So that's going to be the pocket, and there'll be a matching one on the other side. So this is some of the doodle line. Now all of my purses have all of this pattern have a flap on them. So I auditioned several. I decided I really did like the diagonal, the bias scribbles, and they were my favorite ones. So I took my flap and cut it out according to the directions, and I decided to put a whole bunch of buttons down the front just as a way to decorate it a little bit. Always when I'm putting buttons on, I stabilize the back just a little bit because I don't want to have floppy buttons. This is the back of the flap. Now I did put a magnetic snap on here, and this is one of those invisible snaps. So I love the way this works. There's 2 halves to it. So I want this on the back side of my flap. So I just want to double check that when I put this here, this is going to work, because this other half is going to go over here on the underside. So when we put this down, it's going to just snap together. They've got this little plastic edging around it, and you just go over to your sewing machine and just sew a nice neat square around it. Make sure your bobbin thread matches. Doesn't really matter about your top thread. And you've got your whole flap made. So that's how I'm going to do that one. Let me show you how I make my pockets. Most often I like to put my pockets so that they just run right into the seam line. Now I don't like to have exposed raw edges on anything. So first thing I do when I make a pocket is I put a stabilizer on one side, and then the other side is not. So what I do is I sew a 1/4 inch across the top. I bring this back around. I'll press it nice so my seam's right at the top, and then I'll go ahead and top stitch that. All of my pockets are made the same way, whether they're inside pockets or outside pockets, any of the above. Now the strap. I decided for this one that since I'm so in love with this fabric, and it looked really cute, I thought this would make a great strap. So the thing I found when I'm making straps is I do start with a wider piece of fabric, and I do put stabilizer on it. So I fold it to center to find my center line. I fold these 2 pieces in, and then I fold this like this so that it's all one piece. Now you can go ahead and pin this along here, but what I have learned, because I've made a lot of straps, is every time I start and stop when I'm sewing a long straight seam that I want to be nice, long and straight, is don't use pins. What I do is I use a double-sided hem tape like Seam 2 or one of those kinds of products, and that just holds this together. So when you're ready to put this in your sewing machine, you don't have to stop and start every time there's a pin. You don't have to run over a pin that's going to make it just jiggle just a little bit and make your line crooked. So this is a completed handle, and what I have on here is 2 rows down one side and 2 rows down the other, and they're nice and neat patterns, nice and neat lines all the way down there. So I'm going to put this up, and let's look at what I chose for the inside of the bag. I have this gorgeous coordinate here that I just love, and I decided I made these pockets the very same way. I went ahead and used this same one for the back side of the pocket, and this is the front side of the pocket, and it's going to go on here like this. And then this also has gussets. You'll notice that when you make a purse, you really make two. You make the lining and you make the outside. So here is my the lining of the bag. So it's just really simple. To put these pockets on here, what I do is I just draw a line 1 inch up right here. And then I lay my pocket, the bottom of my pocket on that line, pin along here, and then I'm going to flip this up after I've sewn that with a 1/4 inch seam. Then what I'm going to do while this is on here is I'm going to top stitch right along there. So when you reach into these pockets, you can't feel any raw edges, and everything's all neat and tidy inside there. You're going to want to put a divider line in here so you don't have floppy pockets. With this particular bag, I usually put 2 dividers on one side and 1 divider on the other. When I sew those divider lines, I always sew from the bottom up to the top and then back stitch. If you start here and go down, sometimes you can get a little bit of pucker in there. So then you just proceed by putting your gussets on this side, your gusset on this side. After this pocket's sewn on, you're going to put the gusset here, bring this one around, and then you've got a big tube. And that's all there is to making this, the lining of this. So here's my bottom piece. So I'm going to put these right sides together on here. Remember, this is all in a tube. So what I do this is another reason why I put that pocket 1 inch up, because it's just too much bulk down there by the time you do this. So you want to line these up like this and just sew from the seam line to the seam line, and that'll pick all that back up. Now when you're doing your lining, that's where you always leave an opening for turning the purse. This particular bag has ties on the side, and when I'm making my ties, you can either make it like your handle, and you've got to be careful not to burn your fingers if you do that, or you can get these silly little tubes and a little dowel that work really well. So what I did is I just sewed this right sides together and left an opening for turning. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to stick my little hollow tube down there, and then I'm going to put the stick up through here. Got to find the hole, and as soon as I come to the hole, there we go. I'm going to pull this back through. Now keep in mind, while you've got this stick in here, go ahead and poke out those little edges so that it looks nice and neat. So we've got that side done, and I'm going to do the same thing for the other side. So that's just real simple way to turn your little ties without having to use one of the old-fashioned safety pin methods. So I'm going to just call your local quilt shop and ask them for one of these items. They come in 3 sizes. So whatever size you end up making is good. Be careful it doesn't roll off the table. All right, I'm going to poke this side out. And now I'm going to tell you what I did one time is I got so excited I was done, and I left the stick in there. Of course, I didn't notice until I was ready to tie it, but yep, the stick was in there. So be sure and take that stick out. So we'll find the opening, get the stick out. We're going to press this pretty and flat. And then what I'm going to do is this little hole, I'm just going to use that same little piece of double-sided hem tape and just stick it right in there and have it right on the edge, press it down, and you'll never see where that opening is at all. I don't try to top stitch this, and the reason that I don't is when I sew it on, if I've already top stitched, then you have to sew it on so perfectly right over where you've top stitched that it's practically impossible. So don't challenge yourself. This is batiks. I've never met a batik that I haven't just fell in love with. So I've made this one a little further along than that one, so let me get this part all figured out. This fabric is a Tonga batik, and it's from their Celebration line. And this one is from their Neptune line. It's it's a really fun line, this Neptune line, because starfish and seahorses, and this has little fish on it. I just thought it was really darling. So once again, I always try to do something fun with the flap. This one I decided it just needed a couple buttons, and I wanted the buttons to just kind of accentuate with the fabric. So if you were going to lay this one out, it's going to look like, that's the bottom. I'm going to put this beautiful purple batik in here. I'm going to put the fish back here again, and we're going to do this. So now I've already made my pockets, so that part is already done. Now what I'm going to do next is I'm going to put the I'm so efficient for you guys that I've already put my snap on here, and I put my other snap on here, and this time this is all sewn together, turned, and top stitched. So I want to make sure that these are going to line up really nicely. So rather than measure everything, what I do is I find the center of here, and I find the center of here, and I pin my flap down. And then I put my handles just outside my flap. Then when I bring my back side over here, I line up my handles like that. So rather than measure and maybe be off a quarter of an inch or something accidentally, then it won't look funny when you're holding your bag. Even if it is off, at least they'll be the same. So I like to do that. I do keep in mind where the other half of the snap is, because what's going to happen is this is going to come over and be part of that. So here I have made the lining. Okay, this time I have my lining all made. So again, this is one of the Tonga Neptune lines, and here's Celebration down inside. Just added a lot of different color. So now I've sewn this bottom on from seam line to seam line. I did the same for the other side, except I left this opening so that I could turn it. And now I've got these ends that I have to close. So what I do is I reach in here and I pull this out to the side. Go ahead and pull this out to the side. And then you're going to sew it. You're going to take it over to your sewing machine, and you're going to sew from seam line to seam line again, and that will close up that edge. So I did that on this side. It's a little bigger than a quarter, but I wanted to make sure that I had that all sewn up good. So, and I've already made my straps for this one. I have the next line to show you, which is Nouveau Rouge, and Alice Kennedy is one of their designers, and I seem to find I just gravitate towards her stuff because it makes the greatest bags. Okay, this one here, we're a little further along again. This time, my flap, I couldn't decide what to do. So I took all my different fabrics. This is my favorite. I love the black with the leaves, and there's this little red birds in here. And I love the red birds because usually when you see a red bird, it's a cardinal and it screams Christmas, but this doesn't. It's just a simple, beautiful red, black, and white bag. This is the little dots. We have the handles that I did with this kind of a striped with the leaves across it, and the red on the side. And then I went ahead and put the pockets on the side like this. Now on this one, I'm just experimenting, and I decided, rather than the ties, maybe I'd like some elastic in there instead. So I just made a little casing and threaded my elastic through and sewed it into the side seams. We'll see how it turns out, because this is the first time I've done it. But when I made this flap that went on this one, I just sewed a bunch of random pieces together in some random order, and then I cut the strips in different widths, anywhere from 2 inches to 3/4 of an inch, and then just kept flipping them and swinging them on back and forth, and did until I came up with this, and I decided I liked that flap, but it still needed a button. So I went ahead and put that on. Now once again, I've made the lining all the way through because I did the elastic on the outside of the bag. I also did it on the lining. So this is all put together, and hopefully, I left an opening for turning. This is my lining, and I'm going to leave it like this so that it's inside out. This is my body of my bag. Remember I said we always make 2 bags. So I'm going to take the body of my bag and I'm going to put it inside the lining. And when I do that, that'll end up with the right sides together. Just match up these edges, these gusset seams. So there's 4 places that really have to match, and everything else, you know, will just kind of fall into place. This is when I'm sewing on these straps here, I go back and forth maybe even 3 times. It's a pretty big bag, so you're going to put a lot of stuff in it. So let's make sure the straps hang on. This one, I did everything up to that step. Okay, I put the bag inside the lining. I sewed all the way around the top. I matched my corners. I double stitched on every place where my handles were coming through. You can see on the outside of the bag that there's my divider pockets. And if you look on the inside, there's the other half of my magnetic snap. So it's all there. So let's surprise you. I'm going to turn this one so we can all see what this new fabric line is. This is one of my favorites, so I saved it for last. This is called Paris. And I am so in love with this fabric. I just think it's really fun. When I buy something like this, a piece of fabric like this, I usually get a little bit extra because it's directional and because it's got a motif on it that you might want to center or something, and so you need that little bit of extra yardage to go ahead and center that. So I'm going to go ahead and poke these corners so they look pretty. Here's my opening, and I'm going to go ahead and you can either just sew this shut or you can use your seam on there too to do that. Some of you who are overachievers will probably even whip stitch that shut so it doesn't show. So you really end up with with 2 purses that are kind of like this. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to stuff my lining inside here, and then I'll show off all this pretty fabric line. Okay, remember this one is called Paris. Another Timeless Treasures wonderful new fabric that's coming out. And what I did on this flap is like I said, I got a little bit extra, and I took the Eiffel Tower and I fussy cut it right down here. And as I was laying this out, I thought it kind of fades away into the background. So I found a piece of coordinating fabric, and I didn't round the corners of this one. I just left it square and put a little bit of border on it so that it would show up a little bit better. So I just love the way this one looks. We've got these great flowers that match, and inside we have this wonderful paisley. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go through here and press this all nice, top stitch around everything here. I finished up these bags we were working on, so let me show them to you. The first one we started with was this great line of fabric called Doodles, and I just think this one turned out really fun. It has so much personality to it. The lime green buttons really accent it nicely, and I can just think of 100 uses. Young mothers nowadays, they like these for diaper bags, the bright colors and things like that. Your preteen's off to a slumber party, she's got room for her pajamas and her toothbrush and her cell phone, of course, and she'll be the hit of the party. This next one is Nouveau Rouge, and oh, what an elegant. I just think this one is just so fun. I love red and black anyway. It's just one of my favorites. So we kind of checkerboarded the flap on this one. It's got your magnetic snap that's just going to catch automatically. Remember, this is the one that I put the elastic on the side, and you know, I think that worked out pretty good, so we might try that again. More uses. Gosh, if you're a knitter, how about a knitting bag? What if you're going on a vacation, a driving vacation, and you've got young children that are going to get bored in the back seat? Why don't you pack some kind of new little color books and etch-a-sketches and little fun things in here that are going to be a surprise along the way to help keep them occupied. Paris, love this one. Wouldn't you be the hit of the airplane if you're taking this on as a carry-on? You've got pockets inside for your passport and your wallet. So those are easy to get to when you need them. But then, gosh, you've got room in here to put water and snacks and books and magazines and all that stuff that you're going to want with you on the airplane. This is a combination of 2 of their batik lines. This one is Tonga Celebration. This one is Tonga Neptune with the fish down the front. When I put the fish on the side and the fish on the ties. Wouldn't you look great on vacation taking this out to the pool? You've got room in here for your sunscreen and your water bottle. You can put your camera inside, your room key, and your magazines, and you can just lounge by the pool all day long. This would be a great bag for that. So we've got lots of fun ideas and fun bags, and I'm just excited that I was the one to get to show them to you. You can find Timeless Treasures online or at any of your local quilt shops. And again, my name is Sandy. My company is Totes by Sandy, and you can find my bags patterns online or at your local quilt shop.